Alright folks, I'm going to attempt, and yes I highly stress the word attempt, to do this video for the fourth and hopefully final time. Yesterday I tried to do this and I used QuickTime Player to record my screen, and I think it may have been an issue with trying to upload YouTube videos at the same time as trying to record my screen, but it crashed all three times and would not save. So I'm going to try my best to get this done today. Make a short video on how I've been doing my thumbnails lately for my YouTube videos. And let's just go ahead and start off. First of all, I'll take the video that I want. In this case, it's the updates that I recently released as a vlog. And I'll just go into whatever video player I've got, leave it paused, and just start looking for video shots, okay? And then I'll pick one that I liked. And I think it was around, somewhere around in here where I decided that's the shot I want, something like that. Okay, so I'll do that, and then I will take a if you're using a Mac, which I am, I'll take and hit Command. Now watch my cursor here, Command Shift 4. Notice how it turns into that crosshair. And then you can take and go to the edge of this video, and then click it, and then drag it all the way to the end here, and it will take the screenshot and save it to your desktop or wherever it is you've assigned it to take it. But I've already saved the screenshot and uploaded it into Gimp, which is what I'm using to create my thumbnail. So I'm going to escape out of that and go ahead and get this out of the way. And this is the one I decided to pick as kind of like a teaser video or a teaser image to show people, hey, there's something cool happening in the updates this time. So that's basically what I've done. Now, usually what I will start with is I will start with a new template, and you want to start, the canvas size needs to be 1280 by 720. That's what YouTube recommends. And so that's what I've got enabled here. And usually I'll start with a title, but before I get into that, I'm going to go ahead and get this image the way I want it to. Okay. First of all, what I do is I actually got this trick from a girl on YouTube named Karen Cavett, I think. She does a lot of, really quirky designs, and she's involved, or used to be involved with the Ford Fiesta, and she worked at YouTube for a while, and she's a graphic designer. She's really good at it. A lot better than I am, I'll tell you that right now. She uses Photoshop, but this is a cool little trick that I gleaned from her tutorial on how to create thumbnails. You go to Curves, and this is while you're on your image. I basically imported that image into here that I just took a screenshot of, and then you're going to go to each channel, red. And you're going to, now notice how this changes up here. You're going to create like an S curve. That's what she recommends to do. So you create like an S curve with your red, and then you do this for every color channel. So you're going to do green. You're going to try to match this red S curve here. Okay, and then you're going to do blue and match the same S curve. Try to, it doesn't have to be perfect, But notice if I turn this off, it's kind of washed looking, and then when you put this on, it really makes everything pop. So that's what you want, okay? And I'm going to click OK here. And now it's the curves is where I want it to be, okay? So then from there, you're going to go to Select, Toggle Quick Mask, okay? Now what we want to do is it's going to put a mask over the image, and we want to get rid of the background, okay? So I'm just going to select a brush. And this image up here, this is what you're going to use. You're not going to use an eraser, you're going to use a brush. And white means subtract or to take away. Black means to add to. So I'll take my brush, and usually I want a hard brush. So I'm going to pick a solid one, not anything with like a feather outline or anything. So I'm going to pick a solid brush. And let's tell it to go to the size, the brush's native size, which is about 50, okay? So I would take, usually I would trace like an outline. I'd usually use a smaller brush, trace like an outline around here, and need to make sure. By the way, you can use the X key, and it will toggle this for you. So that's really handy instead of having to go back and forth here to toggle it yourself. So I want to subtract this background here, and I would just usually use, like I said, a smaller one, and you don't have to get it perfect or anything right off the bat. And I would just trace around what I didn't want in the background here. And so I'm just going to do that real quick. Like I said, you don't have to get it perfect because later you can add back to what you've subtracted if you need to. I don't want my chair in there, so I'll just go over here like this. Okay, so that's a rough edit here. Now I can take this and select a smaller size and use the X button to switch these over here. Okay, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it's because the cursor is set here and it won't remove for some reason. I don't know why. But then you see where I messed up right here. Let's make the size just a tad bigger here, about 16. I can actually zoom in and add that back if I wanted it. See that? It adds it right back. And I can, click X and subtract some of the other areas that were not exactly what I needed. Okay? So you can do that, and you can go over here and do the same thing. Add some of this back. Subtract some of it that you were a little rough with. It doesn't really have to be perfect. That's my printer going off. But just do the best you can, she's a lot better at it than I am. Probably has a lot more patience than I do. Okay, so let's say this is what I ended up with, and this is what I want. Okay, so actually, let me get my guitar a little bit better here. Add that back in. This is a lot easier if you have a Wacom tablet as well. Alright, so let's say that's what I wanted. Now all I got to do is just make the brush a little bigger and erase all this other stuff that I don't want in my picture, my shot here. I'll do that all over the place. And the important thing is you need to have a brush that is not a feather stroke. You don't want a brush that's going to be, you want one that's solid, so it'll be a lot easier. Okay, so now we have our selection, alright? And I want to touch up this one little spot here that I see. And go ahead and do that. I think once you start drawing like this, it will then allow me to use the X button. Yeah, see it toggling over there? It'll allow me to use it after that. Alright, so that's good enough. So then we're still in mask mode, so we're going to get out of mask mode and go select and then toggle that back out so that now we have a selection of what is red. Okay, so whatever's red is selected. Alright, so if I take and cut that out, it will cut the background out. Actually, whatever is, see, I get this mixed up every single time. Whatever's selected, whatever's red is not selected. Okay, so right now the background is selected. So I can take and remove that background, which is what I want to do. Alright, so let's go ahead and remove that background, get it out of there, push delete, and get rid of that background. Alright, and now what I'll take and I will definitely invert the selection so that I don't have this background when I move it over into my thumbnail. So really you didn't really have to get rid of the background there. You just make sure you invert the selection, get this, and then copy it. And then when you move over here to your thing, you can push paste, and there it is. It's actually make sure that you have the layer that you want it to paste it on selected, because if I selected paste in the title text, that's what it would do. It would paste it in that small box, and you don't want that. So I'm going to select like the background area here that I'll get to in a minute, and I'll click paste. There it goes. And then I'll click, it's not pasted until you name it, so I'm just going to call it test image. Okay, so there it is. Alright, so now let's hide that for a second. What we're going to do is we're going to create our title. Alright, now we're just going to take and get you a text tool and make sure that you go ahead and, where'd it go? Here it is. You get your text tool and you go ahead and type in your text, whatever color you want. Like say I want this color, which is what it already is, and you click OK. And usually the color you pick will be the last color here on the chart. So you click OK, and then what you're going to do after that is you're going to take and create a outline on the text. And I don't think that Gimp has a stroke option, so you have to kind of create it manually, and it's not very hard. All you have to do is to go over here to title text, the text that you're going to create an outline with. Right click it, hits alpha to selection, and so that selects the actual letters of the text. And then you're going to go up here to select and tell it to grow. Okay, and I usually do it at about 3 pixels, If you do it more than that, these little holes here will fill in, and it just won't look as good, I don't think. I mean, it'll look kind of fluffy and marshmallowy if you do it more than about 3. So maybe 4 would be all right, but I wouldn't do much more than 4 or 5. You can kind of experiment. Now, the selection, if you look, has grown. It's not exactly hugging the text anymore. That's good. That gives us our outline. Now what we do is we create a new palette, a new layer. We're going to call it Test Outline. I usually call it Text Outline, but I've already got that enabled up here, and I don't want to, get confused. So Test Outline. We want to create the outline on a new layer. Okay, we don't want to put it on the text because then it will change your text to a image, and you won't be able to manipulate your text anymore. And you don't want to do that and have to type in new text every time. I've saved this as a template so that I can always do this same process and never have to, redo it from scratch. So that's a good idea, is to save this stuff as a template when you get done. So now we're going to go to our handy bucket tool, make sure we have white selected, and we have the test outline selected, and we can click anywhere on the letters and it will fill it in for us, okay? Now notice that the holes are not completely filled up. That's good. I think it looks pretty good. If you put it on about 4 or 5, it would fill everything up, and the letters will be touching more than they are, and it would just look fat and marshmallowy. If you like that, fine. If not, then don't do it more than about 3 pixels when you grow the selection. Okay, that's step number 1, but we still have to we don't want it to be a straight outline like that. I like it to have a little bit of a glow to it. So I just put a Gaussian blur on it for about 5, and that gives me what I need. And once again, I'm still on this test outline layer. So I've got it at 5, and I click OK. And now the edges, you see that, have been blurred, okay? And then all we have to do is put the outline behind the text, and bam. Now we have our outline, okay? The one trick that I learned a long time ago, and it still creeps up on me, and I keep forgetting it sometimes, is that you have to remember when you want to do anything else, like if I'm done with this and I want to move on to another layer, excuse me, or move on to another, aspect of the thing, make sure you always select None, Command-Shift-A if you're on a Mac, because if you don't, whatever things you're trying to do will not appear where you want them to appear. They'll appear here in the text or wherever you got selected. So always deselect before you make another, you move on to something else. That's very key. That's a handy tip. Okay, so I've got my outline here. Next thing I need to do is create a background. So I'm going to take and create a test background. Okay. Now I have my test background, and I want it to be a gradient, and I want it to match whatever color this is. So I'm going to take and select my gradient tool and go over here and select, and usually I want the background to be this color because that will make sure that white is in the middle and the background color is applied to the sides. That way this pops out the best. Well, to me anyway, I just like it like that. So I'm going to select this and make sure it's the same color, which is the last one that I created, which is this one. If you've lost it or whatever, if you've used other colors, which you shouldn't because it should still be there, you can still use the eyedropper tool and select it, and it will appear wherever you want it. But I'm going to select this color for my gradient, and then you can go to, I like to go to square, and I don't do a repeat. And you can do an offset if you want some of the color to be, like if you want there to be less white or less black or less whatever, you can offset it a little bit. So let's see what happens when I do that. And usually I'll take and experiment until I get something I want. So I'll start around in the middle of the screen. I'll make sure my test background is selected, make sure nothing is selected. Otherwise, okay, nothing's selected because it's not, it's got that option in gray. So I'll take and I'll pull just anywhere and see what happens. Okay, so that was the offset. I have it on square, but now I have an offset. So I don't really like that. So let's put it a different offset and see what happens. That's okay, but it's over my outline. Let me get my outline in front of that. See what that looks like. Okay, that's all right. Let's just make it no offset and see what happens here. That's what I did with most of them. Okay, so it looks horrible, right? So let's just make it no offset, because 100 didn't work. We'll just do no offset. So you just have to experiment with what, you know, works best for you. Okay. Oops. Now notice that I did that on the test outline. I don't want that happening, so I got to get back to my test background and try that again. You got to keep an eye on that, or I lost my outline, I noticed. Okay, so this should show up here in just a second. There we go. That'll work. Let's say I've already got that enabled. Okay. All right. Now I want to add some nice lines. Okay. I want to add, you know, make it look like it's huge and pretty cool. So I want to add another layer and call it test. I'm going to call it test line Nova, because that's what the filter is you're going to be using. All right. So I'm going to take and make sure my test line Nova filter is enabled. I'm going to go up here to filters, and I'm going to go to render line Nova. And I leave it usually around 40 here. I don't want there to be a lot of lines, so I usually leave it about 40. The rest of the stuff looks okay, and then I'll click OK, and it will create just some random lines. Now, what you're seeing is the small lines, okay? But what's going to happen is when this happens, you're going to see, oh, there's huge lines. See this big, you know, this big ray, so it kind of does like a negative space type thing, all right? So we got these big rays shooting out from the middle here. Now, this right here is okay, but it's got black, and I don't like black. So what I like to do, I've recently discovered this, is I'll take and put my background and make the background a screen. Okay, so I go over here and make the background a screen right here, and then I'll put the background in front of the line Nova. And whoa, that didn't work at all. So, oh, I know what it was. All right, so let's scratch that for a second. Let's just go back and delete that. I need to create a duplicate of the test background. That's what needs to happen. Duplicate the test background right here. Okay, that's what needs to happen. All right, so let's get this back out of screen mode so you can show it what it looks like here. Okay, yeah. So now I have a test background copy, and I'll call it test line Nova. And we'll do that again. I'm just going to tell it to repeat line Nova on the test line Nova layer, and it will do the same thing. And once again, we'll see it'll be black again. But that's fine, because when we screen it, it's going to be fine. So we have the black, and I'm going to put the background on top here. Actually, you might be able just to screen this. Yeah, you can screen that, but the problem with that is the lines disappear into the background, and I don't like that. I like them to extend out, so I'm going to leave that one at normal. And then I'm going to take and put the background on top of that layer, and then screen the background. And here's what you get. Okay. Let's see, background screen. That's normal. If I showed you my original and what it looks like, that would kind of be what it would look like. All right, so excuse me, but anyway, that just gives you an idea. It kind of does disappear a little bit. That's fine. That's what we're working with, so that's all right. So let's get this test background back up here. And that line Nova gives us a nice, you know, whatever this is called. Now, if I put and screen the line Nova, it doesn't really do anything. Okay, so let's go back up here. All right, so let's say I've got what I need here. Now I've got to get the image showing up. Okay, so the image is on top of everything. I want it behind my test, but in front of my background. So I'm going to put it between the text. I want it behind my text anyway. I'm going to put it between the text and the background stuff and enable that. And that's going to put it where I want it. Now, the next thing you want to do, if you'll notice down here, you've got this little space. You don't want that there. So what you have to do is take the image and scale it. Now, notice I've got a bad looking, you know, job here, which you can probably, if you wanted to, I mean, some of this stuff is naturally going to be hard to do. You can kind of cut off more than you need so that you won't get the background at all. But what you could do as well is, and I accidentally hit the gradient button, so give me just a second. Okay. What you could do is you could blur this if you wanted to, and make the, you could try to blur that, and you could probably, I don't even know if this would work. I'm just going to test this out and see if it would happen. I'm just going to call this blur, and we're going to put it in front of that, and I'm going to tell it to filter Gaussian blur, and then just go ahead and click OK at 5 pixels and see if that will screen and blur everything behind that. No. So I don't know exactly how right now to blur without having to blur individual items. I don't know how to blur a whole layer, so we're just going to forget I did that. Alright. So now we got the test image, and we got to scale that so that these little layers down, these little lines down here won't show up. So I'll just take basically and hold my command key down while I'm dragging this stuff and get it past, not past the thumbnail. You don't want it to, be past the thumbnail, but right about at the edge of it, right even with it. Okay, that's kind of tough to do, but you got to work with it. It's going a little slow because I'm screen recording. That's all right. I'm going to do that edge, and then to balance it out in the center, I'm going to put it down here. All right, so that's good. I'm going to hit scale. That's good enough for me. Now what you can do is you can actually take this image and move it off to the side if you want to. And take your text and put it like up here and say latest updates coming soon. That's what a lot of people do. But I usually do mine in the middle. I may change that up later. I don't know. But for now, I usually just put it in the middle. So I've got me in the middle here. And what you're going to see is I'm going to go ahead and take this image here. And I don't want it to be like this. I discovered something yesterday as well when I was doing this. See, this video is not only just for you guys, it's for me to remember what I'm doing so that I don't forget it, because it was a while before I actually made any thumbnails like this. So what I did yesterday is pretty cool. If you'll look, and I just started playing with filters, and I found one I really liked, and it was called Value. But, I like the grayscale look and everything. And the cool thing about when you changed all those colors over here with the curves, you change the colors and the curves and everything, it causes, when you go into black and white mode, everything to really pop. I mean, you got really nice sharp contrasts between the lights and the darks. But the thing I didn't like is that it was all the lines are bleeding into this image, okay? So what I ended up doing is, I'll show you what I did here. I'm going to take this back off value and put it back on normal. For some reason, you can't get normal here. You just have to wait to get to dissolve, and then normal shows up. I don't know why. But anyway, what you'll do is you'll take and do like you did with the text. You'll right-click the image and click Alpha to Selection. Now I've selected my image, but what you want to do is to remove those lines from bleeding in. You're going to get on your test line Nova. Okay, get on this one, and then hit delete. And now if I hide the image, you'll see that that is gone. It's perfect, okay? But the thing is that you run into, if I hit value now, if I put it on value, it disappears. And that's because the value information that it's taking is coming from the red in this layer. So if I went and undid the deletion of that line Nova layer here, there we go. If I did that, make sure I haven't undone anything I didn't want to do. Redo after selection. If I didn't do that, now if I put value, it's taking information from that red layer, okay? So if I delete that red layer, if I delete the red behind the image like this, it looks like I've deleted my image, but I haven't. So what I have to do, therefore, is to make this a nice value, I have to create another layer for it to pull the information from. And that's where I came up with a white background. So I'm going to call it Test White. Alright, and we're going to take this and we are going to put it below that, and I'm just going to make it a solid white color, and that's the foreground color. So I'm just going to click white, and now it's back. Okay, so the cool thing about this is you can either make it, you can make it white, you can make it purple, and it would pull from purple. You can make it orange, and it would pull from orange. You can make it a gradient of something. I can make it purple and green, and then I can make it a gradient here and just see what I come up with. And it's on square, so it's going to do the same thing. So notice how we have a little bit of green, a little bit of that. If I wanted to make it linear, I could do that. Okay, so you can do whatever you want to on that. So I'm just going to select all in this layer, the test white layer, delete it, and then make it solid white. I'm going to click default, change this around, make it white again. And so now that it will look like it's, oops, I don't need the gradient. I need the bucket. It will pull from the white information and get a nice gray tone, okay? Once again, this is cut off, so I don't remember what I did to address that. I think when I do the actual image, I think I may have moved it to the side. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what I did. It may be sitting to the side anyway. I'm not sure. The actual image, I'll show it to you later. It looks like it is sitting off to the side a little bit more. But anyway, that's basically what you do to create your own little thumbnails. That's what I've been doing lately, and it seemed to work pretty good. So that's pretty much the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll show you what the actual outline looks like. I'm going to go ahead and delete the... Let's go ahead and disable everything here. And I will get rid of everything that says test. And then enable everything that is the actual thing, okay? So we have our text, and we ended up with a glow. Then we created our background. That's what I ended up with. I don't know how it ended up looking a lot better than the other one did, but it's a lot lighter over here, so the lines will actually show up a lot better. Maybe I dragged it from a longer distance. See, I dragged from the middle to the edge. Maybe I went back here and dragged from here to here on the gradient. I don't know. And then we added our line nova, which I've already cut the image out of. Remember, the background is screen up here. That's the mode. Everything else has a regular layer except for the image, which is value. And then, in order to get the value to show up on the image, I had to actually make a white background. So I will enable the white background, enable the image, which is on value mode, and that is my thumbnail. Okay. So this is moved off to the side a little bit. If I wanted to, I could put some text down here on the side. Latest updates coming soon or whatever. That's what a lot of people do, is they move their image. They have a huge image and then they'll shorten it and move it off to the side a little bit more. I could actually make some of the guitar disappear by moving it over some more. So I could have more room for my text, maybe shorten the text a little bit. Whatever you want to do. Every time the text glow is going to be different, so you just have to delete whatever's on the text glow, change your text, and then repeat the same process, the grow, and then the blur, and then making sure it's whatever highlight color you want. In this case, it's white for me. Every time you might want to do a different color for the gradient, the square gives you that nice vignette look, and then you'll have to do a line nova every time too. Don't forget to duplicate the background gradient, name it line nova or something like that, and then put your line nova on it. Put your background on top, and make sure it is in the screen mode. Then you can take your image, click alpha selection, select that, and while on the line nova, hit delete, and it will remove that for you. Okay, so that's what you'll get, is something that looks like that, so that it will match up perfectly and your lines will not bleed into the actual image. Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys, for me. Hopefully this video will actually work and I won't have to do this again. But and don't forget, see how this is selected. Make sure you select none. Control or Command Shift A and select none, because if you find that something's not working that you've enabled, chances are it's because you have something selected. So that's always the default rule. Check and make sure that something is not selected, and make sure nothing is selected before you make a change. Now you can still see the little bit of bad spots here that I did, on the outline. But the cool thing is, since it's black and white, this doesn't really pop out as much. It did earlier because it was blue, and everything else was, a different color. Now that everything's the same color, it looks a lot better. Okay, so thanks so much, guys, for watching. I'm going to get off here. Please subscribe. Check out all the awesome content on my YouTube channel. I've been doing a lot of screencasts lately. As you can see here, I've got some string reviews and some other things coming up lately. So check that out. Please be sure to check out my website at www.bluegrassguitaressentials.com. That's my new website for the new Bluegrass course that's coming out, and you'll definitely want to check that out. And also, you can, if you want to even more content, you can subscribe to my newsletter that is content driven at secretsoftexasbluesguitar.com/newsletter. The one thing I was going to mention before I forget it is this version of Gimp. If you'll look at my video on my channel that says "What's in a Guitar Player's Dock," I go over this specific version of Gimp, which is available on Mac. You can't get it on Windows. This specific version of Gimp has some different packages pre-installed, and if you go to the main Gimp page, it doesn't have it. Just got the standard Gimp installation. But if you go to the other one that I mentioned on that website, on that video, you'll see where you can download it to get some better, some more scripts and some more packages and some things like that. There was one other thing. Oh, the other tool that I use is also on that What's in My Dock. Is a tool called Sketch, and that's the kind of thumbnails that I use for simple ones like the Joyo pedal videos or the What's in My Dock video. Those were just simply created from Sketch, which is basically a screen capture tool that you can annotate with arrows and circles and video and text and things like that. But for more dramatic text, dramatic flair like this, I've been using Gimp, and it's been doing just fine. It's been taking me about 30 minutes to do this, but I think now that I have a process, it shouldn't take much longer than hopefully 10 to 15 minutes. Maybe I can get it down to 5 minutes. I don't know. But so thanks so much for watching. I'm going to get off here. You guys have a great day. God bless, and enjoy playing around with some YouTube thumbnails. And do check out Karen Cavett's channel. I think that's her name. K-A-V-E-T, Karen Cavett, I think. You'll know it because she has like glasses on, and she's really, quirky, and she has some really cool thumbnail videos, and she's a lot more advanced at this than I am. Check out her video on that as well. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more great content coming your way.